Good morning, everybody. I'll go ahead and call to order the meeting of the License and Variance Board. Today is Wednesday, May 25th. It is 10:01 a.m. The first item on the agenda, which is 2A, variance request V22-030 to increase impervious surface area from 35 to 44.2%, 1470 Memory Lane. This item will be tabled indefinitely per request of the applicant. Do I hear a motion to table 2A?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to table 2A with a second. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. That motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is 2B, which is a public hearing variance request V22-034 to reduce the front setback from 35 to 20 feet, lot 628, 1705 Mohawk Place. Ms. Crow, okay, there we go. So, yeah, so she just raised her hand. So, Ms. Crow, if you would. Yeah, she is, yeah. So, Ms. Crow, the background, please.
All right. Good morning, Caitlin Crow, Planner 1 Community Development. So this subject parcel is 0.33 acre lot located on the north side of Mohawk Place. The subject property has a flat front yard and driveway leading to the split level home. The home does not currently have any covered parking on the property. There's no garage nor carport. Since the existing house footprint does sit almost on the side setbacks with only 3 feet on one side, the applicant does not have enough room to erect a carport or garage on the side of the home. Additionally, there's not enough room to safely place a driveway on the side to enter through a garage in the rear. Thus, the applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the front setback from 35 feet to 20 feet for a 440 square foot two-car garage. The garage will be erected on the front of the home using the existing driveway and have a hardy plank front facade and be painted to match the existing home. The existing home was also constructed in 1962 prior to the adoption of the zoning ordinance in 76. The existing home is a little over 1,700 square feet, while the minimum house size for R15 lots is 2,000 square feet. So with the addition of the porch and garage that is being proposed, the home will be roughly 2,225 square feet, bringing the home into compliance with the R15 floor area requirement. Community Development believes the variance requested is the minimum variance needed to construct a usable front porch as well as provide covered parking on the property. The hardship is not self-imposed, as the original home was built prior to the adoption of the zoning ordinance. It has been properly posted, and after reviewing the variance application, staff does support the request and recommends approval with the following standard condition. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevations submitted with the variance application. And I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for staff?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Thank you,
you.
Ms. Crow. And if you could please step forward just for a moment, and if you could state your name for the record.
Cornell Vickers, father of Cynthia Johnson.
Okay, so you're father of Cynthia, because we had Leonard Johnson as the applicant. Okay, okay. So you heard Ms. Crow read into the record kind of the summation of what the request is. Do you have any additional information to add?
No.
Did a pretty good job.
Pretty much what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and you heard Ms. Crow at the end read into the record the one condition. Are you familiar with that condition, and do you agree with it?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here who'd like to speak either for or against item 2B, I would ask that you step forward at this time. Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve variance request V22-034, reduce the front setback from 35 feet to 20 feet on lot 628 at 1705 Mohawk Place. Leonard Johnson, applicant.
Second.
We have a motion to approve 2B with a second. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. Motion passes. 2C, variance request V22-035 to allow additional accessory structure, lot 487, 1110 Stevens Street, Christopher Rope. Ms. Crow, the background.
All right. Again, Caitlin Crow, Planner 1 Community Development. So located on the southern side of Stevens Street. The subject property was issued a pool permit for a 544 square foot in-ground pool in early May of 2022, which is currently under construction. The applicant is proposing to keep an accompanying shed on the property to store the pool equipment. In order to expedite the permitting on this proposed pool, staff recommended that the variance apply to the existing shed on the property. Since the accessory structure ordinance allows one accessory structure per lot, and since a pool is already being permitted on the property, a variance was required to keep this additional accessory structure. If the variance is to be denied, the applicant has agreed to remove the shed from the property. The existing shed is currently in the rear of the property and has existed prior to the current property owner's purchase of the home back in October 2021. There are no formal records of when the shed was built, since no permits are required for sheds or any other accessory structure under 200 square feet in size. The subject property is buffered from adjacent properties by an existing wooden privacy fence. And due to the location of the shed and that existing fence, community development believes that this proposal will not adversely impact adjacent neighbors. It has been properly posted, and after reviewing the variance application, staff does support the request and recommends approval with the following condition. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon substantial compliance with the site plan and elevations submitted with the variance application. And I can answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
No.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crow. The applicant, please step forward. Good morning, and if you could please state your name for the record.
Alexandra Root.
So just like the last one, same question. You just heard Ms. Crow kind of give a summation of the request. Do you have any additional information to add?
No, that's it.
She also read into record the one standard condition. Are you familiar with that, and do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is a public hearing. If there's anybody here who'd like to speak either for or against item 2C, I would ask that you'd step forward at this time. Seeing no one, will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve variance request V22-035 to allow additional accessory structure on lot 487 located at 1110 Stevens Street, Christopher Roop.
Second.
A motion to approve 2C with a second. If there's no further, I'll call for the vote. The motion passes unanimously. Next, D, variance request V22-036 to allow a 6-foot wooden fence in the front yard on a corner lot, lot 337, 3871 Plumcrest Road, T. Minga Kepper. Ms. Crow, the background.
All right. So as you know, there are two different requests for this separately, as you will be also voting on them separately. So the subject parcel is a 0.61 acre lot located on the southwestern corner of the intersection of Highview Drive and Plumcrest Road. So the applicant is proposing to enclose their backyard with a 6-foot wooden split rail fence and a 6-foot black chain link fence, roughly 12 feet from the back of the curb on Highview Drive. Due to the property having road frontage on two sides, both sides are considered a front yard regarding the fencing. Section 503A restricts the height of fences within a front yard to 4 feet. So strict application of the ordinance would require a fence greater than 4 feet in height to be set back 23.3 feet from the front property line or 35 feet from the back of the curb on Highview Drive. Thus, the applicants are requesting a variance to allow for a 6-foot wooden fence to be on the property line, again, roughly 12 feet from the back of the curb on Highview, to provide security from the very busy roadway that sits in front of them. No additional variances are required for the split rail fence, since the welded wire backing on the fence will have a black vinyl coating. So being a corner lot on a very busy roadway, as I mentioned, the privacy and the safety can really be compromised. The wooden split rail fence will provide security for the applicant's family, as well as any pets they have now or in the future. The 6-foot wooden split rail fence will take up the majority of the fence enclosure, bordering Highview Drive, the front of the home, as well as the southern border of the property, which neighbors 3881 Plumcrest. Community Development believes the variance requested for the wooden fence is the minimum variance needed, and at times a 4-foot fence may not provide adequate security on a corner lot. So it has been properly posted, and there are no site distance issues per the Assistant City Engineer. So after reviewing the variance application, staff does support the request for a 6-foot fence in the front yard with the following condition. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan submitted with the variance application, with the exception of the chain link fencing. The fencing from the Highview Drive property line along the eastern property line into the property 23.3 feet should be the 6-foot wooden split rail fencing. And I can answer any questions you might have about this variance.
Any questions for staff?
Okay.
Thank you,
And
Ms.
again,
Crowe.
again, we will talk about the chain link
Yep.
in the second variance.
Hey, good morning. You guys want to come up? If you could please state your name for the record.
I'm Minga Keeper.
Keeper. Okay, thank you. So, as you're aware, and as you've heard Ms. Crowe mention, there are 2 separate variance requests, and by the rule, we have to listen to each one of them and vote on each one of them separately, okay? So what we're contemplating right now is whether or not you can have a 6-foot-high wooden fence in your front yard, even though, you live on a corner lot. It's very common in the city. We hear these all the time. So technically, you have 2 front yards, right? So even though it's the side of your house, it's considered your front yard. So what we're considering right now is a 6-foot wooden fence in that front yard. You heard Ms. Crowe kind of surmise the overall request. Do you have any additional information to add?
I don't have any additional information. I wanted to clarify that we would be able to build along that difference at like roughly 12 feet to put the fence there. Between the 23.3 setback, right, and then our property line. So that's like from the curb, 35 and 23.3. We've done that.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Yes, you can put
Right, so you don't have to go all the way back to that.
I wanted just to confirm that. So we don't have any questions. My other thing that I heard that Ms. Crowe just said is the granting of this variance is predicated on the wooden fence going back 23.3.
Correct.
Okay, so,
Yeah, so this one.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the chain link next.
Okay.
We have to separate the 2 issues. 'cause
All right,
they're-
I just
one is
wanted
One
to-
is the height of the wooden fence and, outside, closer to the property line, and the other is whether or not the chain link is acceptable.
all right. All right, so that, we don't have anything else. I think that's being granted, so,
Go
you're
ahead.
recommending support, so I guess I'll let the council vote. Okay.
Mr. Garland?
If we approve this variance as it has been presented, does it make the second request null and void? Because one of the conditions of this variance is that they
Right.
build the wooden fence to 23.3 that is in question for the second variance.
Well,
Well, thank you, that's what I was.
not really.
Attempting to
So
articulate.
I don't think it does, and we can strike that. I mean, if it makes it simpler, we can strike that last sentence from the condition for this one.
Don't want
Regardless,
us to trip on ourselves.
Yeah.
Because at least the way I heard you say it is, if we approve this, the two conditions are that it's built substantially as they presented it, and the second is that 23 feet is the wooden fence.
well,
rather
the issue
than
is,
chain link
as
fence.
presented affects the second one, right? So if we
okay.
just stick with the, you have to build it in substantial compliance with the application from the way I understand it, and we'll talk about it in a minute when we get to E, is within the bounds of the application, there are things that staff is recommending are okay, and things that staff is recommending denial for. Is that correct?
Correct. And so what I would recommend is if you do want to approve this one, because we can't strike that last line without then
Right, because it's
allowing the
the
chain link to
application
stay.
has it, their site plan that they had it in a
Right.
way that they're not recommending.
Yes, but if you choose to approve the second variance, which we'll talk about in a moment, you can always add any stipulations that you'd like. So if you wanted to amend that stipulation, we can at that point. Because when the decision letter is issued, they'll both be on one, so the stipulation can apply to both at that time if you choose to approve the second
Okay,
variance.
so this is just a little bit clunky.
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
It's gotta
it
be a
is,
little bit
yeah.
clunky, but it'll smooth
Absolutely.
it out.
Sorry, does that,
Yeah.
have we totally confused the whole situation?
No, I.
No, we understand.
Okay, so let's just step back for a minute, because I can't, no, not you guys. I'm talking to myself. Are you, with regard specifically to the height of the wooden fence, as read into record by Ms. Crowe, do you have no additional information to add to what she said? Is that
I
correct?
mean, no, we don't have any information other than we intend to be, substantially as close to what we've submitted photo-wise as possible, barring anything we hear from the fencing contractor. We
Yeah.
started putting out quotes. We have our survey. So we don't have anything.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here who'd like to speak either for or against item 2D, I'd ask that you step forward, let the record show the only people present are the applicants and city staff. So seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve variance request V 22-036, allows 6-foot wooden fence in front yard on a corner lot, lot 337 at 3871 Plumcrest Road. Minga Keeper applicant.
Motion to approve 2D with a second. If there's no further, I'll call for the vote. 2D passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, same subject property, variance request V 22-037 to allow chain link in the front yard, 3871 Plumcrest Road. Ms. Crowe, the background.
All right, so this, as you know, is that same subject property we just spoke about. So in addition to also proposing a 6-foot black chain link fence that will run along the eastern property line, or the rear property line in this case, since it's a corner lot, up to the wooden split rail fence along Highview Drive. This means that the chain link fence will enter the front yard for the 23.3 feet. Since the entirety of the fence is new, both the wooden and the chain link, this means there are no pre-existing fences on the property, and there's no reason that the chain link needs to span the entire eastern length all the way up to that front property line. The applicant has the ability to install the wooden split rail fence, the 23.3 feet, into the property before the chain link would begin and then continue along that property line. Community development believes the hardship is self-created and can be avoided. Staff is not supportive of allowing a 6-foot chain link fence in the front yard when adjustments could be made to accommodate city code. Community development believes there are no unique and special or extraordinary circumstances applying to the property to justify the chain link variance requested. Strict application of the ordinance does not deprive the subject property owner of reasonable use, as the 6-foot wooden split rail fence is being supported and was just most recently approved. Additionally, no other variances have been approved for chain link in a front yard on residential property for the history of variances here in the city. And with that, I can answer any questions you have about this variance.
Yeah. So I understand that the variances, or the ordinance is very specific, especially with regard to chain link. I also understand that, you know, it's only technically a front yard, you know,
Right.
it's their side yard, but, you know, we talk about this almost at every board meeting.
Yes.
I've been on the license variance board for a long time, I don't know, a dozen years, and I can't remember us ever approving a chain link in the front yard.
No, that is correct.
Yeah. And if there are any that do exist, hypothetically, they would have to be existing non-compliant before the ordinance. They'd have to be really old. Right?
Correct. So our fence ordinance was put in place in 2005.
Right.
So if the fences were erected before 2005, then they would be grandfathered in unless they needed to be replaced, and at which that time they would have to meet current code. There's also, of course, if any of them were done illegally against code. But that is correct. There has not been any new ones that have been placed that the city's aware of.
Okay. Any questions for staff?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crowe. Okay, Ms. Keeper, do you have any? So you just heard staff with the subject of chain link in the front yard, and they recommend denial for the reasons that she stated. Do you have any additional information?
So the precedent of never approving a chain link fence is new to us because we see it all over.
Yeah. And that's why I asked the question about if they do exist, they would have to have been in place prior to the ordinance,
And
which
we are
would mean existing non-compliant.
And we are strictly talking about the R20 properties, is that right? Or just any chain link fence?
So the ordinance does say chain link in front yards, and that's across all zoning districts, whether residential and commercial. And I did specify in there that it's only residential lots that it hasn't been approved. Just to be very open with you, there has been a couple commercial properties that have been allowed, but no, and that's correct. R20, R15, any of the residential ones have not had one approved in the past.
Well, thank you for that clarification, because what comes to mind is the chain link fence at King Springs Elementary School.
Yeah.
That's obviously there, and we're fine to accept the guidance of the council. We just will say that the reason why we wanted the chain link is that property line is heavily wooded, and we wanted to keep it unobtrusive visually, and just to kind of have a clear sight back there, because we're not planning on doing anything with a further boundary for a while.
I understand. And I could just, I think that our concern, is twofold. It would be, staff and how they measure, against a variance request has recommended denial. And the fact that there's no precedent for it, yeah, it's wooded, you can't really tell. But somebody could argue, well, what if you guys sell your house and then the next owner clears the lot, and now we've got this precedent of a chain link in a front yard, which, I know that's it. The whole idea about a house having two front yards, even though it's technically the side rear of your actual property, I get it, but it is what it is. So, did you have any additional?
Nope,
Okay.
that's all we'd like to
Any
add.
questions or comments for the applicant?
No, sir.
Okay, this is a public hearing. If there's anybody here who'd like to speak for or against item 2E, I'd ask that you step forward at this time. Again, nobody here except for the staff and the applicants. Okay, seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to deny variance request V22-037, allow chain link in the front yard, lot 337 at 3871 Plumcrest Road. Mingo Keeper, applicant.
Second.
A motion to deny 2E with a proper second. That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Last item on the agenda is item 3A, which is the approval of the May 11, 2022 License Variance Board meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve those minutes with a proper second. If there's no further, I'll call for the vote. That motion passed unanimously. We'll go ahead and adjourn at 10:26.